It is hardly a secret that I am a Soulsborne enjoyer. I have played and platinumed all of the From Software action RPG series on multiple platforms, and I imagine I will play and platinum whatever they come out with next with excitement. When Elden Ring came out, I had a great time with its open world take on the series formula, and I enjoyed it enough to play it through twice, once on the PlayStation 5 and then again on the PlayStation 4 for that beautiful double platinum. I was a little bit disappointed when the DLC I had been looking forward to, Shadow of the Erdtree, was revealed to have no additional trophies, but I wasn't going to let that stop me playing it. So here we are, with the first of my not actually a platinum reviews. So let's jump straight back into the Lands Between and see how I enjoyed Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. It has been a long 27 months since I last played Elden Ring, but it didn't take long to get back into the groove of things as I entered the Land of Shadow and began to explore the massive area that From Software has created for its first DLC. My first discovery of the game was a small mausoleum, very close to the starting point, and it gave me my first boss experience of this DLC. I am not the world's best Souls player, not by a long shot, but I do consider myself an adequate player, and I got absolutely wrecked by this guy. At first, I thought it was just me being rusty, but as I died again and again and again to this guy, I realised I must be missing something, or that maybe this was a trap boss meant to kick you in the arse, the way the Tree Sentinel did in the beginning of the base game. It was shortly after this, after I decided to leave the boss alone and come back later, that I learned of the additional levelling system the DLC has introduced. There are collectible items that you can find and use to upgrade your abilities while in the DLC's Land of Shadow. As you find and use these at the Sites of Grace, your damage output and defences go up. Without these, you will find yourself almost as if you're starting from scratch, a poor, low-levelled, maidenless tarnished at the mercy of the world around you. This new levelling mechanic is interesting, and I do appreciate how it discourages people from over-levelling in the base game to trivialise the challenges that came with the DLC. I do, however, have some gripes with the manner in which you obtain these items. Shadow of the Erdtree has a surprisingly expansive map. It may not look like much when compared to the map of the base game, but its size is incredibly deceptive, hidden under layers, with entire swaths of the map being covered by other areas that tower above you. With a map so large, the game needs reasons to get you to explore, and the main reason it gives you are these upgrades. As in the base game, weapons, spells, summons, and ashes of war are rewards given to you for completing dungeons and bosses. But these upgrade fragments are often just lying there, around the place. The majority of them are just scattered around sites of grace that are near large golden crosses. There are 55 of these items that upgrade your damage and defense, and a further 25 spirit ashes that upgrade your summons. These upgrades are so integral to your progress through the DLC that a lot of the time I found myself just running around looking for sites of grace or shadowy men holding pots to see if they had any of these fragments that I'd missed. It was strange, but forcing me to explore the game this way actually made me disconnect with the fun I had when I was exploring the Lands Between. In the base game of Elden Ring, it was always exciting searching a new area because you didn't know what you would find. Maybe you would find a cave with a weapon inside, maybe you would find a bunch of enemies crowded around a glowing item that would turn out to be a summon or a new weapon ability. But in the Shadowlands, I found myself pretty much ignoring everything that didn't have a purple or golden glow to it. It was great when I found a hidden dungeon or a strange out-of-the-way path to a place I'd been trying to get to for ages, but the act of exploring the overworld itself ended up feeling rote and repetitive. I knew I had to search for these items so that I could progress, but all that meant was I was sprinting around on my horse, ignoring enemies and not engaging with the game. I think I would have preferred it if there had been less of these upgrade materials, but they had all been locked behind bosses you could find in the overworld, like the numerous dragons. Why didn't the dragons, or the giant walking fire lanterns, or the demi-human queens you can find, not drop the upgrade materials, worth making them fighting, instead of just having you run around to pick up shinies off the floor? You spend a lot of time exploring the Shadowlands, and it's a good thing that they are visually impressive as you do this, with some incredibly cool looking areas for you to find. So at least you do have something to look at while you're running around. The main overworld regions that you travel through are varied and interesting locales, full of different colours and environments. And although the secrets you do find in them may not always feel worth it, there are a ton of hidden things to find, or ledges for you to fall off of. I realised though, as I was playing through Shadow of the Erdtree, that as much as I enjoyed Elden Ring's open world, I think, overall, it detracts from my enjoyment of these games. I much prefer the more linear experiences with more contained but still explorable areas that permeate Bloodborne or Sekiro. And I think this explains why the times that I was having the most fun in the DLC was in its main dungeon areas. These were labyrinthine castles that loop back on themselves, full of secret exits and shortcuts, and finding these things and exploring them are the things that I love most about these games. And Shadow of the Erdtree's dungeons are no exception. Although there are only 3 of these legacy dungeons, as they're called, they are all incredibly different and exciting to explore. Even the smaller, regular dungeons that you can find littered around the map were really interesting as well, although, much like the base game, there were a few that did feel a bit repetitive in their design choices. However, they were all interesting and challenging to progress through in different ways. Be it small hidden dungeon or large legacy one though, at the end of all of these dungeons are the main reason I love these games. They're boss fights. Much like the base game, Shadow of the Erdtree can be a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to this, but I imagine a lot of this does come from personal taste in boss fights and the mechanics you have to deal with. There are a couple of bosses in Shadow of the Erdtree who I think could be all-time greats for this series. On the other hand though, there are a couple that push that line between challenging and fair too far towards not being fun anymore. There's always a rush that comes from learning a boss's moveset and finally putting them down after you've died a handful of times. Hell, it's the main draw of the series as far as I'm concerned. When you die to Father Gascoigne in Bloodborne or the Sword Saint in Sekiro, you can sit back and see what mistakes you made, try and learn from them, and try again. Far too often in Shadow of the Erdtree did I get clipped or grabbed by something that I was sure I'd dodged behind as the boss twisted itself in midair to catch me. Maybe I'm just getting older, maybe I've reached my limit to difficulty, but there were bosses in this DLC that felt decisively unfun for me, and it's a real shame when compared to some of the other bosses that are absolutely incredible. Overall, it is difficult to say how I feel about the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. When it's good, it's so good. But in between those moments, aimlessly exploring, hoping to find a glowing shard, or getting hit by something that you couldn't even see because there's so much white light going off around you didn't even realise the boss was attacking you. It left me feeling overall a bit unsure. I think the DLC is good, and I would still recommend it if you enjoyed the base game. It's just, for me, I think I'm tired of the open world formula and would like From Software to return to its more linear experiences. Thanks for watching this slightly different review about not earning a platinum trophy in a DLC. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing and leaving a comment down below with your thoughts on the Elden Ring DLC. And until next time, happy hunting.